Alrighty. Hey, Jonathan. Or should I say, dear Jonathan. We are quickly making our way through this whole board. So let's continue now with, let's take a look at the modulation pedal. So modulation effects, these are all effects that are going to affect and modulate the sound. Go figure. But I think as we go through them, you'll start to see how they are a category of effects unto themselves. So let's take a look. Let's bring everything back up to 12 o'clock. And these ones start getting pretty wacky and different from each other. Unlike the overdrive distortion, where they're all kind of this very similar, just different in terms of color and intensity. These modulation effects get real wacky. So let's go through each one. So the phaser sound, as a reminder, here's our beautiful stock AC preamp modeled sound. Very nice. All right, so our first one is the phaser here down at the 6:30, 7 o'clock position. So a phaser, it'll probably be very complicated if I try to explain the actual acoustic or the phenomenon of what would be happening that produces phasing. But for right now, let's just hear what they sound like and you'll start to identify them. So phasing sounds like this. Wow, 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 wow. Isn't that lovely? A little bit much, right? So let's dial it in with some knobs. So here we go. The rate. It's kind of fast. Let's try turning that down. The depth, also kind of high. Let's turn that down. And then the amount of resonance, let's actually turn that up so we can hear it. Can you even hear it anymore? Very subtle. Let me turn the rate way up so you can hear it, even though the depth is very low. Now you hear it. Right? It actually serves in this kind of setting almost like a vibrato. But what it's doing, right, there's that little overtone that's oscillating up there. And so, right, in an extreme setting, maybe something like this. That's kind of an extreme phasing, but it can also be, right, subtler like we had before. Maybe we'll turn the depth down, but the rate stays up. This kind of it's a very specific sound, but in the right context, the right genres, right, it's got its place. All right, Flanger. This one's kind of cool. Hear that above the fundamental? Let me exaggerate so you can really hear it. Here we go. Maybe a little less insane. So you can hear, again, it's this frequency sweep all through the frequency spectrum kind of on top of it. So in a subtler, maybe more tasteful way, maybe let's try this. Even that's a little much. It just adds a little bit of motion to the sound, right? I probably wouldn't do this. It's not like something when you're playing fast because you can't hear it, but if you're holding pads. It just adds some, even while you're holding and something is static, it's adding some dynamism to that. And right, we could turn the amount down total. Right, super subtle now. It just adds that little bit of sway. So, it can be used for something like that. Tremolo, because guitarists can't tremolo like we normally can, but, right. Wow. You can turn the speed way up. Wow. Maybe less useful for us. Doesn't sound very good compared to what string players can do. All right, chorus. This one's kind of cool. Chorus just adds a slightly detuned second version of what you're playing right next to, and so it just adds kind of some thickness to it. Almost like how a mandolin or a 12-string guitar just has that kind of interesting sonic depth because of multiple strings. This kind of does the same thing. So here's standard and with chorus. Can't even really hear it. Let me turn it up. 3, 4. Now you can hear it, right? So it just adds some thickness to it, kind of twangy, fun. If we really increase the, well, I think actually here this would be depth, the depth of the detuning. Maybe not. Maybe this will this first knob. There it is. Right, so if we really crank it up, it's gonna sound pretty bad. So right, the amount that we set it is how noticeable it is. Kind of cool, just with a super subtle thing. So that is a cool one. In a similar way to how overdrive can make something pop out of a texture, chorus can probably do the same thing. It just causes it to have a richer sonic place. Vibrato, again, not for us. We can do it, really. All right, pitch shift, here we go. This is what we always wanted, right? We don't have to practice thirds and sixths anymore. So, pitch shift, we can set what the amount of pitch shifting is by. Right? You can even hear it after to hear exactly what the interval is. So we can get all the way up, right? So you can see here it's measuring by semitones. So we kind of have a poor man's octave pedal. For some reason, this one doesn't sound quite as good as what we'll get to later with the expression pedal. But I would say, right, if we're doing this, it's probably for something like sixths. Sorry, sixths. Not a tritone, which is 6 semitones. Let's do 9. But, you know, we're virtuosic, so that's why we practice. So, but that's, you know, what the pitch shift is for. Well, I guess also, right, I should say pitch shift, which is different from harmonist. We can just totally take out our original sound. That's why it's a pitch shift, because it's actually shifting your pitch. But we can mix in how much of our dry signal is in there. So when we move to harmonist, right, this is where it's specifically, it's kind of like that third, sixth doubler. And in this case, this first knob, actually, if you see, it's locking us into a certain scale, into a certain set of pitches. So let's say that if we're playing in A minor, which C major, relative major, we would go down to C, and then we'll say at here, the harmony, what level of harmony do we want? So let's say thirds, right? So if we're playing in A minor, now it's locked in to the notes of the C major scale or A minor scale. So whenever we play, perfectly in tune every time. It's glorious. But then we can do fourths. Double stops do not sound very good because essentially I think it's pitch. I'm not sure if it's actually pitch tracking, but double stops kind of screw with it. Actually, maybe not. That's awesome. Oh, let's see. Wait. Oh, it's because the tritone's there. Sometimes in the middle of it, though, you can hear the slight inconsistencies where it's trying to grab and figure out where all the vibration, what pitches it should be manipulating. So, but I guess, maybe it is possible to do some cool double stop stuff. All right, Rotary. This is kind of simulating, if you think like, was it Hammond organ with those, it's got that distinct sound because of that rotating inner mechanism. We can sound like a rotary organ. Wow. Let's just... Hallelujah. Play in church with this. Kick out the organist. Univ apparently is also modeling some sort of very iconic sound-making device. Right, you can hear that in there. Not sure what the device is. But you can hear it's just kind of like modulation. Hence modulation. So, maybe we'll have a use for this in a tune, who knows. Delay. This is interesting that this is in here because we have an entire delay suite down here on our next pedal. But the gives you a delay, right? So we'll get more to this when we go into fully the delay pedal, but we have the rate, right? Longer delays. Then this is, I think in this case, this middle one is dealing with the feedback, which refers to how long essentially the delay will go, how much it's feeding back the delayed signal back into itself to keep going. Right, it's a nice long delay. Whereas if we turn it way down, it disappears quickly. So you can have a really fast delay, but with a long feedback. It's kind of cool, almost like a stone skipping. And then how present the delay is in the overall signal. So delay, and we'll get more to that later. Then we have the fun one. This is the Overtone Pedal. See, they even put a little box around it. This is really cool. It adds both, it sounds like an octave up and an octave down, and maybe actually some overtones in between, but it just really fills out the sound. So here's our... And then if we mess with some of these... Right, you can hear there's the two octaves it's adding. I think these are, oh right, it's got the box around it because the boxes are down here, right? So we can turn the upper overtones way down, the lower ones way up. And now we have, you can just rebalance what we're getting. But this one, yeah, this is pretty cool, like in the middle, maybe for some comping textures too. If you want something that's going to fill out a lot of the sound texture, but not, maybe not be too overpowering, right? Not like not a distortion sound, but just something that has some real depth to it. So those are all the modulation effects, right? It's a lot, but I think you can see how they each are adding their own unique sonic characteristic. So just a little, I guess, to jump into a preview of one of the other banks. Right up here in EQ, you'll notice, if you can read, some of these actually double what the modulation effects have. We have another phaser, another tremolo, actually another delay even up here also. So we can have a couple of these primed to go at any one time, but I'm thinking for us, the ones we'll probably use, chorus is probably pretty likely, maybe the Harmonist, if we want to do some cool stuff, the Overtone maybe, maybe the phaser and the flanger, but it really depends piece to piece. So yeah, that's the modulation pedals. Have fun.